last but not least, thank you to SAMHSA for funding us and for really supporting this and inviting us to support you and your grief sensitivity. And all the views and opinions that are expressed during this session are of the presenters and the presenters only. Okay. Taking a breath. Oriana, taking a breath. So I'm going to invite La Trinity and Monica and Charisma to come on video. They and Marissa will also introduce herself when she comes on. I'm actually going to stop the screen share because you have all of their bios in the brochure, and they are the most important people to introduce themselves. So I'm going to do one more reminder. Oriana and I are going to go off video, and we're going to mute ourselves so that we can center Monica and Charisma and La Trinity. And I'm going to do one more reminder to sit in listening, and then to offer encouragement, to offer acknowledgement, to offer validation as we listen to our faculty. Thank you so much. We'll be back in around 15 or 20 to be in discussion. And Charisma, if you want to hold, yeah, you got the phone just perfect. Great. Thank you. All right, Charisma, it's all you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charisma. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am here today because I'm a part of RYSE, and I was invited to speak and share my story. So I'm always honored to do so. Thank you.
Hi, my name is La Trinity, and I have any pronouns. And I was invited today, same as Charisma, from RYSE, and yeah.
Hello, my name is Monica. I was also invited to talk today. Hopefully you guys can learn from what we have to say. Thank you.
So if you all don't know what RYSE is, RYSE creates a safe space grounded in social justice that build youth power to young people of color to love, learn, educate, heal, and transform their lives and communities. Located in Richmond, California, RYSE works with youth ages 13 to 21 across West Contra Costa County. The lived experiences of young people of color is elevated and centered. At RYSE, there is something for everyone. Programming at the center includes activities and supports for education, career, youth justice, community organizing, youth leadership, media and creative arts, gender and queer justice, case management, mental health, and so much more. Since the pandemic, programming is now virtual, and the calendar of what's available can be found on the RYSE website or social media platforms. RYSE also works to transform systems that are responsible for caring for young people. RYSE is a sanctuary of safety, compassion, and justice for all youth. Nothing about us without us. So now I'm going to share out what I have written to share today for you all. So dear winter, we meet again. That time of year where I feel all alone because mama can't afford to keep me and all my siblings in the warm clothing like everyone else. Why do I have to feel this way? I don't want to have to watch my mama struggle. It's not fair. I'm sure if my daddy was out of prison, I wouldn't feel the way that I do because she'd have help. But that's not my reality. So here I go with another fake smile that hides all the real pain. On top of that, COVID has hit big in my home. Although nobody has it, there's no visitation with my dad. I know it's not his fault, but sometimes I get frustrated because why is this even another thing on my plate? I hate that he's even away, but not even being able to see him is an even bigger stressor. I'm trying my best to do all the right things to keep my mind busy, like staying in school. But at this point, I'm not even motivated to do so. Mentally, school is not even a getaway anymore because I'm stuck in the house, not receiving the same teaching or support as I would if COVID wasn't around. Nonetheless, During these holiday times when I'm reminded of who's here, who's not, and about what I do and don't have, I practice the following things to keep me afloat. Instead of writing a Christmas list, I write all the things that I have that I'm grateful for. I journal, I cry, I let my emotions be my emotions. I give back to those in need. I find things that makes me happy and I do them. And I always remember that right now I might be feeling down. Everyone else's cheerful moods might be driving me crazy, but I take a step back and try to see the bigger picture. This year might be tough. Next year might be hard too. But you know what? There will be a holiday season when I will be one of those people laughing and smiling and spreading holiday cheer. I remember to stay positive and focus on the good things in my life. And I will once again be lifted up by the spirit of the holidays. Thank you all, and I'm going to pass it off to one of my next speakers.
Is it me? What am I? Can Monica go first? Okay.
Okay. So I didn't write something as beautiful as Charisma did, but I'm just gonna be going off based on the questions. Um, this year during the winter time, it's kind of, I guess, different because we, at least myself, we try to be, or my family, we try to be as festive as we can. I think during this time, we take it to spend time with each other. Spending time with our family is a very big thing for us. It, we have a lot of relatives who have passed in this time of December, so it's not easy for um, my mom or her brothers. But they've always tried their hardest to make this time memorable for me and my cousins. Um, I think that again, just being together is what really helps us not think about the sad times, or you know, it helps us, I guess, be able to cope with everything that they have gone through during this time, because December has always been a very hard year for my family. My mom lost her grandma, her dad, um, a lot of people during this time. My grandma lost her mom. Um, a lot of sad times, but being together has always helped. Um, COVID has made it a little bit harder. I mean, I have a very small family, so I am um, lucky enough to be able to be with my family constantly. Um, so COVID has affected my family in that sense, but we're able to see each other. So being cooped up in my house is no problem for us. We drive each other crazy, but it's no problem for us. Um, During this time, I guess traditions that really have helped my family is November 1st was Dia de los Muertos, which we celebrate in our culture. So the November 1st is the day to celebrate the kids who have passed on, and November 2nd is the day to celebrate the adults who have passed on. So I don't know if I can show you guys really quickly the altar that my family and I put together. It would be this one right here. It's not much, but it's very special to us. And it just helps us bring us together and be able to remember our family members who have passed on. I guess doing that, it helps us remember them, and we remember the good memories. Um, we put offerings for them. We put food, stuff that they like, just because it's a time. We believe that it's a time where they come to visit us. Um, and they're able to they always watch over us, but it's a time for them to cross over and visit us here. um so yeah, during this time I'm blessed to be with my family and have traditions, like putting up an altar, or an ofrenda as we call it, you know to be able to heal together and celebrate it together. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
That was amazing. I liked your responses. For me, during the winter, especially now that school is online, I think a lot that comes up is I'm kind of in a slum, like just with keeping up with schoolwork and wanting to actually just like be active and stuff in classes. I think I see a lot of my peers also struggling, especially during the winter with keeping up with school and stuff like that. But I think it also helps with seeing other people struggle along with you. And even outside of school, I think winter, especially for families who might have lost someone due to COVID, is very hard because when you think of holidays or if you celebrate Thanksgiving or not, it's usually a time where your family gets together, and not having someone that is a very important part of your family, like for me is my grandpa, it affects you a lot every time you usually have holidays where they're like a big part of it. But one thing that we do in my household that really like helps with coping with losing people, well, for me, I don't think of it as they're actually gone. I just think of them not here in a physical sense. I think they're still around me and they're guiding me throughout my path of my life, and they're always here to keep me on the right track and just make me steer clear of anything that might drive me off of my future and stuff like that. And I would say something that my culture does to remember people would be, it's kind of like an altar, but like you have a place inside your house where you have pictures and everything that reminds you of the person there. And every time you walk by, you just sense them, you know, like they're there. This is a place for them. This is sacred. And they'll always be there in your hearts, and never forgetting them because they are important inside your life. So, yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marissa, and I am the clinical director at RYSE Youth Center. And before we start our Q&A, I just want to appreciate LaTrinity, Charisma, and Monica. Just, one, I feel really lucky that I get to know y'all and work with y'all and be in community with you all, and really appreciating the vulnerability and honesty that you all brought last time and then brought again this time. And I really just want to lift up how lucky we are that we get to learn from you, and just appreciate you.
Likewise, I'd like to reiterate that as well. My name is Oriana Ides, and I'm a school mental health teaching specialist with MHTTC, and I feel incredibly honored to be here in space with you all. And I think the amount of courage and vulnerability that you're sharing with us all is a true gift. And there's so much to learn from your wisdom, and so it's a deep honor. Thank you.
Yeah.
We want to elevate questions that arise in the chat and speak more about what you've already shared, and see if new questions generate as well in this process for the next few minutes. So please bring your positive feedback and your admiration for these young women into the chat, but also questions that you have, because their wisdom is strong and fierce. I had a question that I wanted to ask the three of you, because it's so clear that it takes a tremendous amount of vulnerability and courage to share your experience, and I'm wondering what you may need from adults that hold space in order to feel this level of vulnerability and courage. So as us here in space with you all and thinking about the other places we go and the people we work with, maybe some of your insight, what allows you to be so courageous and vulnerable and honest?
I believe in the power of like just sharing your stories. So I know that sometimes I speak on really vulnerable topics, but at the same time, I know that if I don't speak up, then I'm silencing somebody else, you know what I'm saying? And I'm allowing something that I went through to continue to take place. So whenever I have the opportunity to uplift and to share out my story, knowing that it'll help someone else, I definitely do it. I feel like a lot of times when an adult is present or, you know, somebody of like higher power and they want us to share out and be vulnerable, as long as those people's those leaders aren't pushy, then from my own experience, I know that it'll just flow naturally, because a lot of times youth just want to be heard in general. They want to know that they're not fighting through things alone. So as long as leaders or people in our community are just allowing us to be vulnerable, to be honest, then it'll flow naturally. But I always, always, always enjoy speaking out, just knowing that my story will probably change somebody else's life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And then there's a question that came up in the chat for La Trinity around how you honor and celebrate those that you've lost. Monica and La Trinity have shared, but Charisma, if you'd be willing to share a little around how you and your family may celebrate those that you've lost.
Honestly, we don't really have like an altar or anything like that, but something that we always do when somebody passes away is just having like a candlelight or something like that, where we share memories and we talk about how, you know, these people have impacted our lives. Another thing that my family does is basically we do something that they really liked to do. So if somebody passes away and loved bowling, on the anniversary of their passing, we'll do bowling or whatever the case may be. Um, but we don't have like a place in our home or anything where we honor them, but we do come together as family, and we always are sharing stories or doing things that that person loved to do, definitely.
Can I answer the question I was asked before this? I don't know if that's okay. Oh, I can.
Yes.
One thing that I would just like to say, because I think it's very important. When you are sharing your story, I think adults, when they hold a space for you to be vulnerable, they need to make sure like they're validating your experience and not judging you. I think a lot of times when we talk to people, we can feel the judgment, whether they say it or not. We can see it on their face. And when I'm grieving or when I just dealing with a loss, I don't want somebody to be judgmental of how I'm feeling or how I may react. I want somebody that will be understanding with ways that I cope. And yeah, because I feel like that's very important, is just to be very open-minded, because coping and dealing with grief looks so different in people. It's not just one way. Some people deal with it with anger, some people deal with it with sadness, and some people don't deal with it. So yeah.
Thank you, La Trinity. And I think Monica wanted to answer this question too. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes. I think presenting is already hard enough, especially in front of a lot of people. I think it's something that I've always struggled with, just talking, in front of a lot of people. But when it comes to personal stuff in the sense of like grieving and stuff, I'm very, I guess you could say, open about it, because I've told Marissa many times that for me, there's no point in me personally, in my experience, to hold it in, because I know if I want to get better and I want to cope and heal, I need to talk about it. And if people can learn, especially from an adult point of view, to see, I guess, a teenager's point of view, in the sense of, grieving and coping, I think it's good. Um, and I'm always more than happy to, to talk about it. So like I said, I've told Marissa many times, that if for me, if I want to get better, I like to talk about it and, and heal. Uh, yeah.
I so appreciate all three of you naming this and saying this, that one of the reasons you share your story and share your experience is for others to heal, to be able to see themselves, to be mirrored, to be held, to be validated. And so, I mean, again, I hope you're reading the chat, how much everyone's appreciating you all, but that's just powerful. And I think it's like such a skill to be able to experience your own healing and then say, okay, I want to share this out with other people, right? I want to help other folks learn how they can also help young folks. So there's a question, there's a couple questions. One of them is, could you talk about how or if art plays a role in your healing?
I would like to answer this. I think art plays a big part of my healing. I consider music art. I listen to music religiously. Like whenever I'm sad, happy, just going through any stages of grieving and coping, I feel like music has always just been there for me. And along with that, drawing out how I feel helps a lot, because sometimes you just need to get it out. Like words sometimes cannot explain how you feel. And it helps me a lot to just draw like the emotion, because I might not have the vocabulary at the moment to explain how exactly I'm feeling. But yeah, art is very important personally for my healing, and I think it's helped me get this far in life.
I sing, so I like to write music or express how I feel through songwriting. I consider myself a great writer. So I like to write poetry, just to express how I feel. I feel like that's a form of art, writing and singing and things like that. And also, being a Black young lady, you grow up on like a lot of like rhythm and different things like that. And it's like a release, like when you can get up and you can move. So all of that is very therapeutic for me. Um, Growing up, my father was incarcerated. So I found like writing out how I felt was like my main go-to. I was in a program that helped me with my writing and public speaking and things like that, where I would go out and I would share my story, being a child with an incarcerated parent. So the art of writing has definitely, I feel like, saved me. And I'm not sure if y'all heard, but when I was reading out what I had wrote for y'all, I said that I allow myself to just journal. um, so I just write, and if it flows, I make it into a song. If it doesn't, I just recite it and let that out in the atmosphere. But art is definitely, definitely, definitely a plus, and it has helped me so much and like my healing and growth.
Thank you very much. There's some really great questions that are coming up in the chat and in the question queue. We also wanted to ask you all, given so many of you mentioned in your openings the season winter and how winter is really compounding already feelings of loss or grief, and you offered really beautiful ways that you're maneuvering through. I'm wondering how COVID-19 is impacting your own sense of hope and your thoughts and feelings about the future. Yeah, I'm wondering if one or two of you can share a bit about that.
For me, I think we're very young right now. And I like to think about the future a lot. I like to prepare for the future a lot. Um, it scares me to not be able to know, you know, when this is gonna end or if something like this will happen again. I think that COVID, I guess it opened my eyes because I've never lived through a time where we've all had to be in like emergency quarantine or I've never been in the middle of a pandemic. So I think it's a very good learning experience for us, for all of us. I think it's very scary to not know what's going to happen next, or will you think that it's ending and then there's another spike of cases. It's very scary throughout this time. And like I said, I'm one to think about the future a lot, so it's kind of scary to like one day I do want to have my own kids, and how can I prepare for for that, for something like this if it happens again. So yeah.
Oh, can you repeat the question again? I'm so sorry.
No worries at all. Um, the question is around COVID-19 and all that is looming, the uncertainty around that, and how you see that impacting your sense of hope for the future and your peers' sense of hope for the future.
For me, I see COVID has really made us lose a lot of hope. Even when I scroll on Twitter, I see everyone tweets, "We ain't never getting out." Like a lot of people, truly, including myself, I think will be in a quarantine for a while, um, for different reasons. But yeah, for me personally, I try to keep hope and happiness that when I transfer next year, I'll be able to go to the campus and stuff like that. But I always know that there's a possibility I won't be able to. And along with that, COVID is pretty serious, like it's a very serious thing. So just keeping in touch with family and making sure like my siblings and my mom are safe is very important during this time. So yeah.
For me, I feel like I know how things are right now, and I force myself to believe that like I know that I'm deserving of a positive and happy life. So I try to tell myself every day like this too shall pass. I'm gonna get through this. Everything's gonna be okay. So I just talk to myself. It is very hard being in the house. I like to work, and that's like been put on pause. So it gives you a lot of time to sit with yourself. But at the same time, I feel like with us being on quarantine, it's allowing us to sit down with like our emotions and our thoughts and forcing us to heal. Because a lot of times everybody is just fast pace moving day by day. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. Um, but now that we're in quarantine and the world is just like moving slow, we're like, okay, I never really sat with my childhood trauma or things like that. So at the same time, it's a bittersweet thing where it's like I want to go outside and have a good time, but at the same time, let me just be at peace and let me be okay. And I just continuously tell myself that in times before, the world probably thought that in 2020 we wouldn't even be living like this. So I know that one day this won't be our story, and this is just something that we'll look back on and be like, I remember COVID-19 had us all in the house. I just try to keep myself motivated and talk to myself, things like that.
Thank you all so much. Oh, go ahead, Oriana. Okay.
Well, it's so clear that your hope for the future is strong and that so much of your well-being and your healing is predicated on your perspective and your outlook about life. And I'm learning a great deal. For me, even it gets really hard to always have this perspective. So thank you so much. There was one question in the chat around it requires some time travel, but if you were to go back 5 years, previous, what advice would you give that younger you, knowing all that you know now about grief and healing in the world and hope?
I would honestly give my younger self advice to not care what people say. It's harder, it's easier said than done, because it's taken me years to really just know that my opinion is of myself is really the most important opinion ever. My younger self, like 5 years ago, I feel like she was very insecure and cared what everybody else thought of her, and just wasn't secure with my younger self. Like, had a lot of issues, and changed my personality in order to fit people's you know personalities, also even music taste. Like, I would listen to certain music genres that I didn't even like just to fit in. And I would go back to my younger self and tell her that she's enough. Like, you don't have to conform in perm your hair and everything, like, you are enough. You are an amazing person, and you deserve to heal and happiness and love. And just let them know that, like, COVID is gonna happen, but you gonna make it. You gonna live. Yeah.
Okay, so I would go back 5 years and tell myself that um, the things that I'm experiencing is not a reflection of me. And what I mean by that is sometimes we go through things and then we look at ourselves as if we're the problem, like we deserve to go through that trauma, through that pain. Um, and 5 years ago, I was 14 years old. And so I would tell my 14-year-old self that um, I'm only experiencing this because it's going to create a amazing person in the future. I will let myself know that I'm beautiful, I am loved. I would have started doing affirmations a lot younger if I knew the power that they had. But I would just tell myself that um, the things that I'm experiencing is not a reflection of me, and that I'll get through everything, and to remember to understand that, I'm deserving of love, I'm deserving of peace and things like that. I would just talk to myself like I keep saying, and just allow myself to know that everything that I'm going through will create me into a young, amazing young lady.
5 years ago, I think I was 14, about to be 15 years old. There's a lot of advice that I would give myself, but I think the main thing that I would tell myself is, like Charisma and La Trinity are saying, you know, to love myself, to not care what anybody thinks about me, sometimes not even family. Um, you know, stay focused in school, because I feel like during that time I lost a lot of my focus because of what I was going through back then. So just, find different ways to cope with your pain, but keep pushing in school. Um, I wish I would have started therapy a lot earlier, because I feel like I could have gotten um, I feel like I could have started to heal a lot earlier. Um, and I guess prepare Marissa, I feel like she would have helped me prepare myself for anything that would have um, come in my path. So mainly, to love myself, to respect myself enough to, keep pushing in school and create a better future for myself, and to not listen to what anyone has to say, any negative thoughts, to just block them out, and, only take in positive advice that people had for me, and only let positive people into my life, and not people who just wanted to hurt me and knock me down and, bring me down. Yeah.
Thank you, Marissa, period. I see that all in the comments.
Yeah. Thank you, Marissa. You the GOAT, period.
deep appreciation for y'all. I'm feeling a little teary because I get to be with you all on this journey. Yeah, so y'all are the GOAT to all of y'all. So for our last question, thinking about when we were in person, when it came to grief and healing, and we were able to do rituals in person, right? But knowing now that we are all, most of us working remotely, working from home, doing this work over Zoom, what are some rituals that adults or folks who are supporting you in healing can still do even over Zoom that would be helpful for you?
I think there was one, I wish I could do it. I mean, I probably still can, but there was one that really stood out to me. Was the sandbox thing that we did. It was like Marcy put out a lot of toys and stuff, um, and I kind of played out my life in the sandbox with those toys. Um, I think something similar to that really helped me reflect and just take like a look at the bigger picture at what was going on. I don't know, that one always just stood out to me. I guess doing something similar to that would be really good. Uh, Looking at my life mapped out like that, even with toys, really put it really helped me see a different perspective and help me reflect onto, you know, what's going on, the bad things, the good things. I think it, I don't know how, but an exercise like that, I feel like it would be really good because again, it gave me like a different perspective, a different point of view, an outsider point of view of my life and, looking down at it. Um, so I think that one, again, that's the one that stood out to me. I think that one would be really helpful. Or drawing it out maybe even. That would be good too.
I don't know if it's necessarily an activity, more so as a reminder. Um, One thing that I enjoy that Marissa does constantly is tell me that, because for years I blamed myself for whatever reason and didn't believe that I deserved to heal. And I think constantly doing activities around healing and allowing yourself to have grace and um, just giving yourself room to mess up because you're human, and having an adult constantly work with you with that really like helps, because it's one thing to say it to yourself, but also having someone reinstill it constantly is another thing. So that's the one activity or just thing that Marissa does for me that really helps me a lot with reminding myself that I got this, and life is gonna do what it do, and I just have to deal with it as every step comes. And I guess that kind of part plays into her constantly reminding me, like, sorry, somebody called me. And I think that constantly has to do with her reminding me that take it step by step, don't go 14 steps, just, relax. So yeah. I don't think charisma's on.
So I think Charisma just came back on. Marissa and Oriana, do you want to do one last? Charisma, are you able to offer your one ritual and then we'll be able to close out?
Yes, I'm sorry. I lost like
All good.
sound and
You're
all of
with
that,
us.
but I'm back.
All good.
So something that Marissa and I did together when we were in person was me talking to my younger self, because I experienced a lot of things as a youth. I'm still youth, but I experienced a lot of things when I was younger that I didn't really heal from. And so I would place something like in another area of my room, of the room in our meeting room, and I would talk to my younger self, and I would tell myself what I would have wanted to hear in certain situations. Um, and sometimes we would even write out, because I liked writing, we would even write out like an apology I wish I would have got. So for me, I felt like in a lot of areas in my life, my dad could have been more apologetic or been more explanatory in certain situations. So we would write out what I would have wanted to hear him say. I feel like that's something that you can still do at home. Yeah, so that's my thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to do a huge round of gratitude. I'm giving you my all the round of applause, gratitude. Thank you to La Trinity and Monica and Charisma for letting us in your homes. That's not something that I take for granted and we take for granted. So thank you for letting us in your homes, seeing your ofrenda, seeing where you are in the world. Thank you to Marissa and Oriana for helping moderate and supporting the conversation. I'm going to invite us to take a breath and also invite Monica and La Trinity and Charisma, if you can and want to respond to questions that were coming up in the chat box. We do need to move into closing. So I am going to invite everyone to move off of video and to mute themselves. You can learn more about RYSE on RYSE's website. So I'm going to bring that up right now. And I'm going to just make sure patience with me as we move into closing. So I'm going to if you wanted to check out RYSE, you can go to rysecenter.org and really learn from RYSE, both from Monica and Charisma and La Trinity and their leadership and the community that holds them. So thank you, RYSE. La Trinity, I'm going to mute you. And we are going to move into closing, colleagues across the country. We're going to move into closing. I'm just going to take a moment. I particularly got a little bit oofed when Monica turned her camera towards her ofrenda. That felt very, really just struck me. So I'm still holding that very dearly. So I'm taking a moment for myself. So on behalf of everyone who went into the Grief Sensitivity Virtual Learning Institute, our entire team, we are so grateful for your participation. We're so grateful to close with these voices, close with these words of wisdom. If you can please put the closing eval into the chat box. You can hold up your phone right now and let us know how this landed for you. I do want to name again that all the recordings will be available on our website. So you'll get a ping when the recordings and all the decks are going to be available. So we know that you're eager. I know that there were sessions I was hosting and I wasn't able to go to other sessions. So we will have all the learning up. Thank you, Ricky, for putting that up. Don't leave yet because we need to ask you this question. We want to talk about what's next. So I'm going to launch a poll right now. And the poll is just a quick way for us to get some information about what would you like now? And I know that it is not very trauma informed and grief sensitive to ask people who've sat for 2 days on lots of listening and learning about grief to then be into planning mode. But you may have a little bit space left to think about this of what's next and how might we continue. So you can answer any of the above. I want, or also put it in the chat box. So the options are, we could do monthly learning collaboratives with peer facilitated mixed professionals. So many peer support specialists joined us the last 2 days. All of us have lived experience because we are living this experience. We could have monthly learning collaboratives, one for clinicians, one for school mental health, and one for the general public. I think that question got cut off, but that is what that means, one for the general public. We could also have regionally focused grief and COVID programming, so maybe West Coast, East Coast, across our TTC centers. We could have national focused programming. We could have more webinars and seminars led by faculty. Maybe La Trinity and Monica and Charisma come back and do a full Teach Us. and do a full workshop, or Amina and Babalua or Dr. Doka. Thank you for putting in the chat box your ideas too. We receive them. And or you might want another Grief Institute this spring. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes for you to answer the questions. I do see that they are multiple choice. So if you are not able to answer all the ones you're interested in, please let us know in the chat box how we can support your learning moving forward. It has been such an incredibly rich experience, both in September and in November. And I know that I am marked. I am seeing gratitude for the help, and also happy to see that there might be a continuation. Okay, so I'm going to wait for more folks to answer. Again, you can let us know in the chat box where you would like to go with this and where you would like to go moving forward. So there could be something geared more towards the general public. We hear that. I think we also got a recommendation to support healthcare providers more specifically moving forward. So we hear that. All right. So we're almost above the 70% threshold. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you to all of my colleagues, not just me, all of my colleagues. We've got I Want to See Grief Institute for Youth, led by youth and hosted. All right, so let's do it. Let's make it happen. Okay, so I'm going to keep the poll up, and I just want you to know this could not have happened without the faculty who said yes to this idea in September and again in November. It could not have happened without an enormous amount of collaboration across multiple universities and faculties and agencies. I am incredibly grateful, and we are all grateful for this as an experience that is a product of us experiencing grief ourselves, holding your grief, and knowing that we have to get better together. So thank you again. Ricky, if we can put the survey link back in the chat box, because I think we've got more folks who would like to take the survey. And thank you for answering the polls so that we can really support the programming moving forward. Thank you, thank you. Okay. So I'm gonna end the poll because we're at 80%, and I'm gonna share the results. So we've got more webinars and seminars led by GSVLI, and we've got some specific requests in the chat box for a grief workshop related to death by suicide and to support suicide survivors. So all these are such wonderful and beautiful ideas. So keep them coming, keep them coming. And we wanted to end here. We wanted to end here with a gratitude for you for coming, to our faculty, an invitation for us to take care of yourselves, but also each other. That was the through line. We heard that from Monica, La Trinity, and Charisma. We heard that from all of our faculty, that this work doesn't happen alone, and that we learn we are each other's biggest teachers and biggest supporters. We are here for you. We are so grateful to be your event staff. I have learned so much with you. And again, on behalf of the entire Mental Health Technology Transfer Center network across the country and internationally the last 2 days, thank you for coming. Thank you for being present. Thank you for being open. Thank you for holding all the learning with tenderness and urgency. And we wish you an evening full of resourcing and full of support and full of anything that will help you move into a space feeling purposed and present. So again, gratitude to everyone. We will stay on for about 1 more minute to get more comments in the chat box. We are just, again, I can't stop saying how grateful we are. Just so grateful. And another deep sense of gratitude to Marissa and Oriana for moderating, and for La Trinity and Charisma and Monica for making sure that we close knowing that we have what we need to get through this. We have what we need to get through this. Thank you. All right, friends. That is it. With that, we are going to close. Yes, I feel like I don't want to close because we're seeing all the love, all the love in the chat box, all the love in the chat box. Yeah. Okay. That's it. We're going to close now with deep gratitude. We'll see you next time. Stay with us, stay with each other, and know that those who came before you, we are so grateful for them. Those who are with us now and those who will come after, just all what wisdom we have in our lives to help us navigate this moment and all the moments. Health and wellness to everyone. Health and wellness to everyone. We'll see you soon.